Welcome back to the lineup here on Radio DePaul, Chicago's College Connection. Tom and myself in the studios, Alan Soloman, the author of A Century of Wrigley Field and the former writer for the Trib about the Cubs and White Sox. So, Alan, you were mentioning to us before we hit the break about how your wife has to have the story ready. So right now, what do you think she's thinking with the Cubs down 5-4? Would she have a story ready and then just erase it if the Cubs score 2 runs in the ninth? And then what would you do, too?
It's a nightmare. But everyone's gone through it, and that's where you don't know who to root for. That's where when your team comes back, it's okay, that's good, but I have to just do this whole story in a hurry and rejigger the whole thing. And you have to do it so fast because you can't go to the clubhouse and get your follow-up quotes until that story's moved. So as the inning is progressing, you're kind of playing with different leads. You're trying different things. You're running along almost like play-by-play, so that when the game does end, even if it ends suddenly, you can basically do a quick rejigger and press a button and go. And the most thing you have to worry about most of all there is getting the score right. Because you have people who are behind you to edit things, but on this situation, that first time, they really aren't going to do that. They're going to press the same button and just go with it, put a headline on it, and go. So you want to make sure that your facts are right. And that's the crucial thing. But there's a rush that gets involved with that, with writing on tight deadlines and getting it right. And the thing I missed most when I left baseball, along with missing baseball and seeing my wife less, but what I really missed most was that rush of writing on deadline and the great feeling when you do it and you get it right and you get that story the way you want it. And that goes for that early story and even the follow-up story, where you sometimes squeeze for time too. I love deadlines. A lot of people don't. If they don't, they're in the wrong business. Yeah. But I love them. And the adjustment then going from that to doing travel, where your deadline is a week from Thursday.
Got some time to spare.
That was difficult, actually.
A little procrastination coming in? Or?
First you crank it out like you did baseball stories. You get it done really fast, and you amaze your peers because they go, well, how do you write that so fast? Well, I've been doing this now for 7 years, so I can do that. As time goes by, you start relaxing a little bit. And then you get into the habits of starting to write, then you get up and walk around, you come back, you try it again, I'm not sure I like that, you walk around, you talk to people in the office, you take a walk and get a Coke, come back and try it again, you look at it, I don't like this, you throw the whole thing out, start over again, and the story is no better doing it that way than it would have been if I just cranked it out the first time. So that was a key adjustment. But the rush of a deadline and adjusting to a quick turnaround, a late turnaround in a game is a challenge and very much fun.
She might have to do that here. The Cubs have 2 on with no outs, and Luis Valbuena up in the bottom of the ninth here, so it looks like she might have to a little adjustment coming here.
And she's already running an alternate lead.
Yeah.
Right now, she literally, if you could call her right now, and if you did that, she'd probably kill you by remote control. But if you could call her right now, or if you could kind of stand behind her and watch what she's doing, right now she's running an alternate lead, alternate type thing.
So what lead? If let's see the Pirates win this game 5-4 in a thriller, because the Cubs could come back. But if the Cubs win this game, what would your lead be?
If they win the game, do you believe in miracles? Something like that. Or was the best of games was the worst of games? Something as cliche as that. But you have to kind of crank it, so you can't really get that pretty.
Does that make the game a little less enjoyable then? Or is it because you enjoy writing, you enjoy baseball, putting them together, it's the most enjoyable thing in the world then?
It's terrific. What's made it a little more difficult these days, Tom, is that not only are you writing that story and working on that one element, which is the game story, but through the game you're writing material, but you're also tweeting and also updating your blogs, and also dealing with a lot of people who want your time at the same time. In that way, the beat has become much more difficult now. I mean, Kerry works far harder now than I did when I was doing it 20 years ago.
So, Alan, who's the better shortstop? We were talking a lot of Cubs, but now let's bring in the White Sox. Because Alexei Ramirez has had an April to remember. You talk about, do you believe in miracles? Well, this is a miracle for Alexei Ramirez. He has so many bad Aprils the past couple of years, and he had a big hit Sunday to give Chris Sale the win. 4 runs in the ninth, granted, but he gave him the 1 run that could have given him the win. So you look at Starlin Castro, who's hitting the cover off the ball right now, 342, and Valbuena just struck out, to Tom's point. So are you a Castro guy, or are you an Alexei guy? Are you a Cuban guy?
Well, I thought that Alexei was done after last year. He had a terrible year, and part of that was because he had some personal issues going on.
21 errors.
21 errors, and a lot of bad plays that didn't count as errors. He was just terrible. He was obviously distracted by something. He's also getting older. I mean, he's not a kid. He's what, 32 now? So that's a factor with Alexei. I thought he was incapable of having an April like he's having right now. And you look at him now, and he's enjoying the game again, and it shows. Castro had a year last year that was not unlike Alexei's. He seemed distracted. He was balls would go by him. He'd look up, and the ball would be past him already. And go, oh, what was that? You wondered whether he was ever going to be a real Major League Baseball player again because he's going backwards. Turns out he was having some issues with some dugout personnel and also some personal stuff as well. And he's a young guy. So he was going through a really painful year last year. To answer your question, right now, who would I take for one season or the next 2 seasons? I don't know. But if you'd asked me this a year ago, I'd say Castro because he's got so much future and so many tools and all that. Last year, we were both confused by what we were seeing on the field. Now both of them are playing really good ball. And if Castro can get it together, given that he is still a young guy, he's still like 20, 21, 22, 23.
Yeah.
There's no ceiling as to how good this guy can be, especially if he has somebody in the dugout, whether it's a teammate or a coach or a manager, who believes in him and whom he believes in, and they get on the same track, and he discovers again how to play the game right and how to keep his mind on his business.
Yeah, I think the thing with Castro is, he came up and had those 2 terrific years, and and obviously the Cubs haven't been too great since 2009. And here it is. Well, they said they anoint this guy the savior of the franchise that hasn't won a World Series in 100 years.
Right.
Well, I mean, you're a 20-year-old. You've only been in the United States for so long playing baseball, and all of a sudden you're supposed to save this entire franchise. So I think that's obviously weighed heavily on him. But we had heard that that there wasn't great chemistry between Castro and maybe Svam or the developmental guys. So so far, have you heard maybe Renteria has gelled? Renteria and his guys have gelled a little better with Castro?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Okay.
I know about the Swain thing. Yes, there was a problem there. Dale was playing hardball. Was saying, "Hey, you're time to grow up a little bit," and Castro didn't understand what that meant. Basically, and there was nobody in there, especially once they traded Soriano, who was very much a protector and a confidant. There was no one there to kind of replace that attitude. So there are problems. At some point, a player, whether he's 19 or 23, whether he's from Tennessee or the Dominican Republic, has to figure out that I'm a professional baseball player. Here's what it takes to do that. And what you have to have really are people in the dugout, ideally teammates, who enforce playing the game the right way. The great thing about the White Sox teams that I covered back in the early 90s and the White Sox team in 2005 was they had all kinds of people like that. Konerko wasn't a loud kind of guy, but he went about his business a certain way, and people went along with that. When I was covering the team, Ventura and Ozzie were the 2 guys who kept people like Frank Thomas, who wasn't always where he should be mentally on their game. You have to have that, and the Cubs haven't had that for a while. So a lot depends now on who they get as supporting players to complement, with an E, complement guys like Castro and guys like Rizzo, who's really the same situation. Mm-hmm. They're not sure what this guy is either.
You wonder with Jose Abreu, a guy who's come up. He had a solid first couple games, then he struggled, and then he picked it right back up against the Rockies. 2 home runs, and the plate adjustment was something that I was really looking for. A guy like you mentioned, Paul Konerko, Frank Thomas, guys who adjust at the plate. And for a rookie in Jose Abreu to do that in I think it was the 3rd at-bat of the game, he was 0 for 2, 0 for his last 11, takes it to an 11-pitch at-bat. 5 or 6 straight fouls before the ball came, and then he jacks it a little bit out of the park. The outfielder came close to robbing him, but Abreu looks really good for the Sox.
But you can't think of him as a rookie in the same sense you look at a guy like Castro or the younger guys in the White Sox. I mean, first of all, he played a pretty good level of baseball in Cuba, and that's like AAA and marginally Major League in a lot of ways. He's 27 years old. He's not a kid. He's gone through the series of situations where you learn how to adjust and where you're playing every day and all that. So he came into the White Sox not a completely finished player, but a guy who already had a clue. And by all reports, he had a maturity about him that he arrived with, that he brought into the playing field. So he's the kind of guy that you expect that. I mean, he's ready now. Other players on both teams that are a little younger than that didn't play at the caliber of play in their home countries, not so much. But this guy is like Tanaka, the pitcher with the Yankees now from Japan. He's a finished product. He came in here to the big leagues knowing how to pitch to win. He's going to be terrific if he stays healthy, which sometimes is a problem for Japanese pitchers, which I don't exactly understand. But there's a pattern there. But if he stays healthy, I watched him pitch a couple days ago, and he's just terrific. He's got a presence out there. And Abreu has a presence. He doesn't look like a 19-year-old kid. Looks like a guy who really knows what he can do and what he should be doing. He's going to be a good player for a long time.
And so, you were talking about maybe leadership and dependency in some of these guys in the dugout. So you talked about maybe Abreu's almost kind of already there, and obviously Konerko could be a great help if he needs something. But where do you think the Cubs get this from? Is it going to be some of these veteran pitchers or some of these veteran hitters they have? Because they got it seems like it's all young guys out there. So where do they look to? It's
young guys and it's old guys. It's kind of a mess. The team that's out there right now is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I hate to say that. I hope my wife isn't listening. I know she's not. She's probably pounding away trying to make a story make sense right now.
The bases are loaded, and Bonifacio is at the plate.
Okay, let's look at Bonifacio. Who is this guy?
Yeah.
Okay, he's hitting 500 right now, something like that.
He dropped a little.
463, no hits today, and he's hit in every single baseball game. Tom and I were talking about this earlier in the show. A little debate/discussion. Adam Eaton or Bonifacio, who's your center fielder that you want? Both players are playing so well for Chicago teams.
No comparison. Bonifacio's on a 6th team in 8 years.
Yeah.
Now, when guys keep moving from team to team to team, sometimes it's a matter of circumstance. Sometimes it's because teams just look at this guy and say, okay, his upside is 260, ordinary, not much power, ordinary defensively. He's a good extra player who doesn't make a whole lot of money, which makes him easy to move.
Mm-hmm.
It makes teams want to have him. So the Cubs got him, and his future will be, if they're going to be any good, it's going to be as an extra player. I mean, Adam Eaton is going to be could be terrific.
Right.
So there's no. Plus, he's younger. He's still a baby. So he's got issues too, but still, he's got a really strong upside. And Bonifacio is going to hit 267 this year. So
you're calling that right now?
Well, he's been hitting that pretty consistently over his career. So if he's hitting 485 right now, to get down to 267, he'll be hitting 143 for the next 3 months. So I mean, that isn't necessarily true, but I remember Don Zimmer saying years ago, I was a 243 hitter. That's all. I mean, if I could have a hot streak and be hitting 327, but I was a 243 hitter, and that's how he always finished. Well, Bonifacio was that. So what you're seeing right now is fun and enjoy it, but I wouldn't put him in center field and say, here's my center fielder of the future.
Yeah, he just grounded out to end the game there. So
there you go.
Yeah, there goes the golden streak begins.
That's right. So now he just goes boom, right down. No, I mean, he's a nice player, and obviously there's two sides. He keeps being moved, but teams want him too.
Mm-hmm.
So he's one of those guys that moves around a lot, but teams see value in him and take him. So that's the plus side. He might be okay. But you look at the Cubs outfield. I was looking at the Cubs outfield just this morning. Okay, their outfield.
It's a little worrisome if you're a Cubs fan. A couple no-namers. Ryan Kalish from the Boston Red Sox.
There are five players listed on the roster as outfielders right now. Are Ryan Kalish, Junior Lake, Justin Ruggiano, Nate Scherholtz, and Ryan Sweeney. Ryan Sweeney is an established underachiever.
Yeah,
he's got it looks like a power hitter. He has no power whatsoever. He's hitting at maybe 250. Okay, outfield will probably get hurt once or twice a year. Scherholtz is an older guy who had a fluke year last year. 21 homers last year.
Came out of nowhere.
Right. Before that, he hit like 9 homers occasionally, that sort of thing. So he had a kind of a fluke year, and he won't be around when this team gets good.
I was shocked they didn't deal him when he was having a pretty decent last year.
But if they couldn't, or they realized they had no one else to play.
Yeah.
He reached that point too. And Justin Ruggiano is 32 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's an established mediocre player. He's established fifth outfielder. I shouldn't say mediocre player. Any guy in the big leagues is a good player.
Mm-hmm.
The quiz here is Junior Lake. We're not sure what he is. He could be terrific, or he could be a problem.
He came out complaining about playing time already 9 games into the season.
He's got a little bit of an attitude.
Yeah,
but he's also got a lot of talent. So if he can be rechanneled, reeducated, and be taught how to be a major league player day in and day out for 160 games a year, he could be really something. Or it could be a guy like Felix Piet who bounces around and